Hello everyone and welcome back to another Fury Warrior Mythic commentary video for Uldir. This time it's Zek'voz, Herald of N'Zoth. This is basically where I go over my talent selection and how I approach the fight from a progression standpoint. I'm not going to be going over Azerite traits, as typically there aren't any bosses which have required me so far to pick certain Azerite traits. And likewise, I'm not going to go over trinkets because of just the vast majority of trinkets available for Mythic Plus and dungeons, and the fact that there's so many combinations, and unlike Legion where you had kind of like the combination of Convergence of Fates, that doesn't really exist in BFA at the moment, so yeah, not going to cover trinkets either. Sorry this one took a couple of weeks to get out. I actually DC'd on our first kill at about 50% and then I couldn't get back on, so I lost all the footage. But anyway, it's here now. Going over talents from the top down, I took Endless Rage, Double Time, Sudden Death, Warpaint, Carnage, Bladestorm, and Siegebreaker. At this point you might have noticed that Endless Rage is typically going to be your best talent now in that first tier for every encounter in Uldir. Although War Machine relies on ads, and there are ads in this fight, the way that the ads spawn and the way they die, they all kind of spawn at once and they all die at once, so that any potential rage generation you get from War Machine is lost, as it's not spread out over, a consistent fight. I took Double Time, not Stormbolt. There are ads which can be hard CC'd on Zek'voz, however, we have enough stuns and sheeps and interrupts and the like that Stormbolt was really unnecessary for me, so I took Double Time instead. The next choice is pretty easy, Sudden Death. Furious Slash is predominantly a single target talent, so this has got quite a lot of cleave with ads, so Sudden Death is the clear winning choice there. I've taken Warpaint for the next talent. I'm really leaning towards Warpaint a lot on these encounters, especially kind of as you're progressing, because the minus 10% damage reduction is great, and you don't really need the leaps. You can plan your gameplay around it, and you very rarely are you needing that leap on a consistent 45-second cooldown with the speed boost. So Warpaint really doing wonders. Similarly to the Endless Rage talent, Carnage on its tier is going to be the go-to talent for all bosses in Uldir. It's just the most competitive talent in that row. Talking about the level 90 talents, I'm actually going to take Bladestorm here, not Dragon's Roar. The reason for that is about every minute to a minute and a half, I can't quite remember the timings exactly, but you get a big wave of ad spawn which need nuking down as soon as possible. Our AoE DPS was a little bit lacking. I did start with Dragon's Roar, but as it turned out, we needed that burst AoE, so I've taken Bladestorm there, as that talent is going to suit this fight better. Infrequent spawns of large ads is where Bladestorm really shines. And then the final tier of talents, I'm going to be taking Siegebreaker, which pairs up very nicely with Bladestorm, as you can do a well-winded Siegebreaker Bladestorm combo and get some massive damage off. Okay, Zek'voz. Zek'voz is largely going to come down to holding your cooldowns for when the wave of ads spawn. Silithids, I think they're called. So on pull, you're just going to be using your pre-pot and holding Recklessness and Bladestorm. You can use Siegebreaker straight away because the cooldown's only 30 seconds. I've actually held it a couple of seconds there, which was a bit of a mistake. I don't know why I did that. I should have used it immediately on pull, but where I've held it for a little bit, I'm not going to be able to get my second cast in before the ads spawn, but it's not the end of the world. So I'm just moving around here to try and get space for the pre-spread for I-Beam. And I haven't got my range marker up below my nameplate, so I've actually had to quickly type that in and done a range bigger than needed, 8 yards instead of 5, but never mind. Moving out of the AoE on the floor there, the eruption, and using my rallying cry just to help stabilize the raid. This is where I could have used Siegebreaker again if I'd used it sooner before, but because the ads are coming in soon, I've had to hold it. And I really mess up on this first set of ads. It's really hard to watch back. Because basically when the ads come in, you want to make sure you got Recklessness up, then you Whirlwind, Siegebreaker to spread that debuff to 5 ads, Rampage to make sure you're enraged, and then Bladestorm. And you'll see here that I Siegebreaker without any Whirlwind stack, so I only get the debuff on one target, which is just really crap. It's a massive damage loss. As you can see, it kind of, that's like 19k down there in the damage. Without it, it would have been great if I'd had it. And then you want to be cleaving like Sudden Death procs and trying to cleave the low HP ads. If you get like Sudden Death procs, and during Recklessness, you can quite often get back-to-back like Cleave a Sudden Death, Cleave a Rampage, Whirlwind, Cleave a Sudden Death, Cleave a Rampage, etc. Anyway, moving to the next ad and cleaving Siegebreaker again, so I get it on the boss and the ad, so when the ad dies, that I've got the debuff on the boss to keep damage going. Moving across to the next ad, always just trying to keep uptime on something. But prioritizing the Void Weavers and spreading out for the I-Beam again, just trying to keep uptime on this ad. As long as you're not stacked directly on top of someone when the I-Beam comes in, you can be pretty sure that you can dodge it. as you can just move away from them and basically not die. If you're right on top of someone, you're probably not going to have enough time, but as long as you're like, yeah, not directly stacked. And I did a little heroic hop there out just to make sure I didn't get hit by the AoE. And back behind the boss again, waiting for the next set of ads, which you'll see are coming in 40 seconds. Recklessness is coming off in 10 seconds. So you have to hold your CDs for quite a while, but you do net a big amount of damage by holding them for the ads. Otherwise, I'm just going to be making sure I've got a little bit of space and doing, yeah, kind of basic rotation. I've not had any rolling deceits yet, which is quite nice. I haven't had, oh, and it says like right on cue I get one. So with this, I'm going to wait until the last second because you don't really need to move out, and we've got high mobility as warriors. So I'm going to take that portal, dump it in a corner, not on top of the portal, and then leap back in, and that's minimal downtime. Make sure I get away from the I-beam which is coming in, and then just generally preparing for the next set of ads. So with these ads, I'm going to correctly do Siegebreaker again, get a Whirlwind with the Recklessness up, Siegebreaker the debuff, Rampage, and then Blade Storm, and that's plenty of damage. And then Whirlwind again, Rampage, Execute, Whirlwind, Rampage, Rage and Blow, Execute. So you're cleaving loads of damage out. It's lovely. It's so good when you can get cleaved executes, and that's really going to push your damage up if you can. So as soon as this AoE is done, we're going to move to the next ad and just get some damage going. Siegebreaker's coming off cooldown again, so I'm going to get a Whirlwind and cleave that Siegebreaker to make sure I get some good 2-target cleave going on. Cleaving Execute again, which is nice. Just generally trying to keep the cleave going. Like I said earlier, cleaving executes is really going to be some decent damage. If you can manage to target mobs, I use KUI nameplates and it puts the health bar into the grey colour as opposed to red when there's ads around you in sub 20% HP, so you know which has to target to get some execute cleaves going. So just killing the ad again, cleaving Siegebreaker there because this is going to die soon and it's up on the boss to keep going. You don't really want to have an ad die with your Siegebreaker having like, you know, half its duration left because that's just lost damage. So coming up to the transition soon, but I think we get one more set of small ads, so saving Blade Storm for that and Recklessness coming up soon. Otherwise, just, you know, hitting the boss, keeping rotation going. Nothing really more to it at the moment. Bit of downtime, as it were, quiet time. So rolling deceit's coming in there, people moving out, making sure to avoid that rolling deceit on the right there, obviously, because if you step in that, you'll spawn an ad, and that is bad news. Just preparing for the next set of ads. I'm in a bit of a sticky sitch. I've had to leap out of there, and I think I might get clipped by that, although I'm not too sure. It's hard to tell whether that's just the AoE damage or whether I actually get hit. So again, spreading the Siegebreaker debuff with Whirlwind, Rampage, and then Blaze Storming all the ads. They're in a bit of a funny position, but the Ring of Peace kind of knocks them nicely, and we get some nice damage off there. And again, cleaving Rampages and Raging Blows and Executes where I can, trying to prioritize the Executes and Rampages as that will net the most damage. Going over to the next ad. Getting that down as soon as possible before we transition to the last phase. Again, going to be cleaving that Siegebreaker. And then it should get to 20%, so I should get a nice cleaved Execute off as well. Yeah, very nice. And then moving to the final last ad, making sure to avoid that rolling deceit puddle there, which has been placed quite badly. So I'm just going to walk out with this one, because there's no portal or anything. I'm just going to walk out, put it in that corner, and then charge back to the ad. Finish that off. Surging Darkness to avoid first. I decided to save Leap back there in case you needed for a later event. There was no real need to use it there. It would have been a bit panicky. There's loads of time to walk out with the debuff, put it in a safe spot. You know, I was heading to one position, then I just moved to the right because if I put it when I was initially going to put it, it would have kind of like blocked off and made a wall of clouds which no one could step through. So at this point now, the orange balls are going to be, you know, coming down and creating that circle on the floor in which someone needs to be in it, and you get a damage buff if you get the debuff and stuff. But it's not my turn, so I'm largely just going to be kind of getting near them and ready to cover if someone doesn't get in there in time, because if the ball hits the ground, then... Do you know what? I don't actually know what happens. I think just loads of damage goes off. You know, you don't want it to happen, so I'm just going to be stood nearby in case someone misses their soak, in which case I'll step in and take it. Spreading for I-beam, and now sub 20%. Sorry, in the last phase with lust and stuff. If you know when you're going to be taking the orbs and you can time it well, then hold your cooldowns if you don't have to hold them for too long. Otherwise, I've just decided that I'm going to use them with lust and not bother holding them, because I don't really know. I'm quite late in the list, so I don't know whether really I'm going to get into any of the soak puddles to get the damage buffs. I'm just going to try and go ham and get as much damage as I can. Again, making sure someone's coming to soak that one, which they are, so I'm going to get out of it myself. And getting some Cleave Blade Storm damage off on that main mind control target there, Merc. I'm going to kind of be covering that one a little bit, just a little bit whilst the AoE comes in, so I'll make sure someone gets in there, which someone did. You can actually soak the AoE damage with a decent DR if you're full HP. It's really no problem. So if you need, you need to drop a roll and deceit during the AoE phase, you can leap out with a enraged regen, take the hit, and then move back in again. So killing Carrion there, so he doesn't AoE fear people whilst he's mind controlled. And I'm just covering this circle because it doesn't look like anyone else has got it at the moment. Then Dasty gets into it, so I know I can move out again. Covering this one because no one's got it yet. It's not quite my turn, but yeah, Dasty's in it now. I think someone took his previous one, so he's got his. There we go. And now at this point, the boss is on what, 5%. I'm desperately just trying to get get a damage buff. Otherwise, it's going to be really sad. So I stand in this one. There's a few people in there. I know it's a kill. I've just ignored the rotation now, and I've tried to get a damage buff. It's 30 seconds. Ideally, if you're going to get the best logs possible on this, you want to be getting that damage buff and having the boss die as your buff runs out and you get mind controlled. Because obviously, if you get it first and you do great damage, but then you're dead for like 10-15% of the boss, you're gonna have really crap overall damage by the end. So you really want to stay as alive as long as possible and then get it at the very end. But yeah, we didn't finish too badly there, 18k, which is quite nice. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully you picked up some hints and tips. But I will catch you on the next one. Vectis. Cheers.